house to get it to be that 80-degree temperature. It takes about 6 weeks to acclimate the oysters through that transition. Once we get them situated at 80 degrees, we'll move them over here to this raceway. And you kind of think of this as the honeymoon suite. So this is where each of those 50 broodstock get their own little glass dish, their own little bed here. And we'll keep on raising the water temperature up to 85 is kind of the sweet spot, where the oysters really respond to Marvin Gaye, and one will get triggered and then release pheromones that'll have all the other oysters spawn at the same time. And the dish keeps their eggs or the sperm contained within that space, and that's when we know how many males, how many females we have. Because from the outside, you can't tell the oyster's gender. They're sequential hermaphrodites, so they switch genders throughout their lifetime. Fill on in. This is kind of like training for how you're going to feel on the boat.
Yeah.
So this is our carboy room. That's what these containers are called. And
we put them in upwellers underneath our docks, which are basically like the hatchery just in the bay. They're these big silos with water pumping through them to keep the oysters circulating. And the hatchery crew actually goes out there almost every day to pull those silos and wash them down just because they're filtering through so much. So from the upwellers, we bring our oysters into our nursery out behind in Back River. We're the only farm here to have a hatchery, which is pretty cool, so we sell our oysters, seed and stuff, but we're also the only farm to have a nursery back there. So like when farms buy our oysters, they'll put them in their upwellers and then they'll put them out on their flats in the bay. But we kind of have a step in between the upwellers and putting them out on the flats, which is our nursery. So we kind of get that kickstart, kind of that leg up on the growth. So the oysters will come out of the upwellers, we'll run them through our big tube sorter, and then they'll go in these bags here. So you can see they're still really small when they're starting off in the nursery. The holes are pretty small. So we'll dump a couple hundred oysters and they do 6 bags per grow. And if you were to go back there, you'd probably see 20 lines of 40 of these grows connected. So it's a pretty big operation back there. And we also have a group of maybe 4 or 5 guys that go back there almost every day to pull a couple hundred of these bags and run them through that tube sorter again to monitor growth and to move them up in bag size, because within a couple months they're going to be in bags this big. So you can see just how in a couple months how big these oysters, or how fast these oysters are growing. So when the oysters come out of the nursery, they're ran through that tube sorter one last time. Instead of putting them in these trays, we just dump the big totes of oysters into the hull of our skiff. We'll go out into the bay to a particular area where we have marked off with buoys, and we'll just shovel those oysters in. They'll flutter down to the bottom, and they'll grow on the ocean floor. So these are our island creeks. So our island creeks grow a lot more naturally. So you might get, if we're eating island creeks on the boat, you might taste a little bit of a earthy, like mineral-y component to them. That's because they're sitting on the ground. And once we kind of plant those, that's that. They sit there for a year to 18 months until we're ready to farm them. So there's no like going in and massaging them. There's no pulling them out in the winter because they're in deep enough water that they're relatively protected. And to farm those, we just picture like a huge garden rake with a bag attached, and we'll drop that behind our boat, and it's called dragging. We just go up and down our lease, dragging up those oysters, and from there we'll sort them. And those plexes out there, I'll talk a little bit more about them when we're out there, but that's where we sort all our oysters and bag them up for delivery. So.
good there, bud.
So good.